Hey there, it's New here. The first week has come and gone, and as promised, I'm here to give you guys my week 1 experience of 3.18 Sentinel League. I think I've had a fairly unique experience. I tried some things a bit out of the box, and overall have had a tremendous amount of success. I want to share with you guys how that's gone. In fact, I've had so much success that I even made a video in between the week 1 and the day 1 and week 1 experience videos to showcase that build. You probably know what it is. It has to do with the Soulthirst belt. Yes, I have made that transition over to a Soulthirst belt, and honestly just kind of blown away how good it is. So I'll talk about that in fairly decent detail throughout this video, but want to get a couple things off the chest here first, because part of my week 1 experience included becoming aware of everyone else's week 1 experience, I guess you could say. The average person clearly is not happy with the state of the league, with the state of the game, even after multiple incremental nerfs to Arch Nemesis modifiers. Primarily, most people's beef has to do with the Arch Nemesis modifiers. I made a separate video about this. I'm not going to talk too much in detail about it, but I do want to at least elicit here and now that I do not share that experience. It's been a lot of fun. I tested leveling before the patch drop. I tested playing the game with this character up to the point where I would have gotten Soulthirst on. I tested all of that before Arch Nemesis modifiers dropped with the old Nemesis modifiers, and then the game dropped and I immediately played just like it was just like another test run after they released Arch Nemesis modifiers. Essence monsters had a bit more health, a bit tankier. Metamorph monsters were basically unkillable, but other than that, I really didn't notice any changes. It's crazy to say. I feel like the Sentinel mechanic itself was actually, shall we say, produces a much greater challenge than the Arch Nemesis modifiers themselves. And so I suppose that the combination of the new Arch Nemesis modifiers in conjunction with Sentinel beams and empowering things like that, especially if you do all of that on a league mechanic, then yeah, sure. I mean, that's kind of that's kind of crazy, and yeah, it makes things pretty challenging. But it should, right? Because you're like triple dipping in what you're doing there to boost the monsters. But at any rate, let's see, with the day 1 experience, I shared with you my build. I shared, kind of the Atlas things, how it went, the leveling process. Basically, the only major update with the strategy is that I've firmly planted my boots into the cemetery. You might have guessed, I've gone there. By the way, I do plan, I'm talking a little bit about going on forward from this, getting this out of the way, I guess, but I am planning to farm the Crimson Temple a fair bit this season. I am thinking about doing a massive farming strategy to help identify the drop rate of Mage Blood, not as part of a crazy busted 6-man party, but as a solo farmer. I'm thinking, I don't know, 1,000 runs? What do you guys think? 1,000 Crimson Temple runs might suffice. I was going to probably do that on the cemetery this league anyway, but certainly the opportunity is there to do it on Crimson Temple. Now, I've checked the Crimson Temple map layout. I don't like it, honestly, very much. I don't think it'll be that great for my build. But, I mean, come on. With that kind of divination card on there, you all know which divination card it is. And apparently there's another backup crazy divination card on that map as well. So, yeah, it's hard to deny that sort of attractiveness on divination card farming for what that map has to offer now. So I will definitely find myself testing that map thoroughly this season. But for now, I'm just trying to stick with Cemetery to do what I know works well. And I need to farm myself up enough currency to get a... not Headhunter, actually. Yeah, so that is probably one of the biggest updates that I'm giving you my week 1 experience. I've basically shelved the process of farming for a Headhunter. I'm farming for something else now. I'm farming for Omniscience. You might have guessed that because suddenly Omniscience is now half the price of what Headhunter used to be. So I guess I can farm Omniscience, and then immediately buy a Headhunter thereafter with a little bit more currency, and there you go. I do plan to have a Headhunter. I do plan to test it. I definitely want to see for myself. I don't want to just rely on anecdotal evidence from other people. A lot of people saying it's absolute trash now. And I did come out with a video before stating what I suspected would occur with Headhunter, and I was overall pretty optimistic. Now, that has changed because, not because I've tested it, but because my optimism lied in the idea that the Arch Nemesis modifiers were going to get shipped busted, or like really, really hard. And obviously the monsters would have more than just one Arch Nemesis modifier on them, rares that is. I think I can't remember if I knew that after the new Atlas passive. This one right here. Couldn't remember the name, Valley of Darkness. So I don't think Valley of Darkness is going to more than make up for the triple incremental nerfs that took place to Arch Nemesis. I don't know, maybe it will. But you know what? I don't have to have a Headhunter, because another big reason why I am shelving the Headhunter is because I got this right here. So there was a lot of conjecture about the idea of going Inspired Learning in conjunction with Mage Blood. So that was kind of the idea for a lot of people. I don't hear that many people talking about it these days, but for some reason, Inspired Learning, which I thought was actually a pretty rare jewel, like as rare as Unnatural Instinct anyway, apparently it's common enough that it only costs like 3x, even after the first week. All throughout the first week, it was only 3x, which is a fraction of the cost of a Headhunter. So I'm really surprised that it's that cheap. Obviously, that it is a little bit of a fickle thing to work around with your build. You have to have a proper jewel slot for it, and you have to maneuver things. Like, for example, I can't run a Brutal Restraint like I want to in this slot, because I'm running an Inspired Learning, and to get Inspired Learning in a different slot, I'd have to take a whole bunch of extra passive. So I don't really know what I'm going to do in the long run with this, but I definitely want either a Headhunter or an Inspired Learning. It's pretty obvious that I should have at least one or the other, probably. Let's go ahead and take a look at the build here while we're here. This is going to be kind of unscripted. I'm going to be talking a little bit all over the place, but I don't know. That's in the spirit of talking about my own experience. I figure you should probably keep it about as unscripted as possible, right? So the build looks pretty similar to what it did before. I did have 2 medium cluster jewels, and I have since upgraded those cluster jewels to something much more fit for a proper Soulthirst build. You know, I think the most high-end Soulthirst builds usually use at least 2 large clusters, so at least 4 medium clusters. I don't know if I can fit that in. I mean, there's so many good passives that I really don't want to give up. I'd have to start giving up a whole bunch of passives. There's a couple mastery wheels I could give up maybe, but I obviously can't give up the stuff here for the Inspired Learning. There's just a lot of good stuff. I don't really see much, because I'm only gonna get 5 more passive points. I'm level 95 right now, so I don't have a lot coming my way. I don't know. I mean, I have to have this mastery. I have to have projectile speed. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do exactly, but I may just leave it like this. And my flasks are terrific now, actually. I did switch over to Taste of Hate because it's still a very long-lasting flask, and it works perfectly fine with Soulthirst as long as I have like the Premier Experimental's Bismuth flask almost perfectly rolled. It works really nicely. So, and the reason I have this obviously for the defensive bonuses as well as the physical gained is extra cold damage. That is another major change to my gear. Now, I did come out with the showcasing video about the sort of low budget variation. What you're getting to see here right now, if you were paying attention to that and you enjoyed that content, is you're seeing it basically a sneak peek into my build for a future video coming relatively in the near future. Well, I'll come out with a sort of medium budget variation, probably like a 10 to 20x, maybe 10 to 15x variation. I think my the gear I have on me now is probably pushing... I know it's hard to say because these flasks and these cluster jewels are actually pretty expensive. I'm probably already pushing about 15x actually. So I'll have to double check into that, see what I'm looking at. But aside from having just stellar flasks and jewels, it's probably around 10x or maybe less. So yeah, I will come out with a video on that. But the major changes is adding the inspired learning, which it would be my advice to anyone who is following that build showcase. The next upgrade you should get is inspired learning. Absolutely. You should go inspired learning. You should put it right here, and you should take these, not the crit wheel, but you should take the acuity there. I have the crit wheel because I am using a very, very specific bow now, which I can get into my gear. I suspect, yeah, everything else down here looks pretty similar. So yeah, that is what my build here looks like, and that'll be in the POB below. I will go ahead and put my current POB down for anyone who wants to see it. Okay. So I did have a Lion Eyes Glare laying around. I was trying to get one that was really good. This is basically perfectly rolled, except for max mana. It is a foregone conclusion. Nobody wants this bow. They're dirt cheap. I think even this perfectly rolled one I got for like 5 chaos or something. Now this bow is really interesting because now the reason people don't want it is because for a fizz, it's obviously meant to be a physical bow and presumably physical to element conversion, or at least that would be in the works. It's extremely fast attack speed, so it scales extremely nicely with attack speed, which obviously my build incorporates a lot of attack speed. But the damage is too low, so a lot of people just kind of put it on the shelf. But here's the thing. It has a couple of very interesting extra mods on here. And obviously getting like a super high physical damage bow right now would cost me a lot. I mean, the only one that would honestly even be much better than this, like if I just ignore the special mods, which I'm going to talk to you about here in a second, if I just ignore those mods, I can get a better bow, but it's going to cost me at least like 10x to get a better one. So I don't want to mess with it really. Hits cannot be evaded. That counts as literally all situations. Every possible situation means I don't need any accuracy. I don't need to run a precision. I don't need to take any sort of... yeah, I usually take the bottom half of this wheel down here. I usually take this wheel down here. I usually get some other things. I don't know, maybe the aspect of the eagle. There's just all kinds of different places that a ranger typically has to go on the passive tree to get points for accuracy. I don't have to do that. I can ignore that 100%. So that actually frees up, by my estimation, I'm getting at least 8 passive points freed up from that, essentially. Which is a huge deal because this build is going in Soulthirst variation. I have to devote extra passive points to clusters in a weird way. So it's nice. It's really actually quite nice to have those extra passives. And yeah, so that is good. And it's hard to say exactly what that value represents right now. If I just had to put a ballpark figure on it, I'd say it's giving me at least 10% more damage. The value I would have on this. So I kind of imagine the physical stats being maybe 10% more than what they are, maybe 10 to 20% more than what they are. But the big one, the really big one on here is Far Shot. So last season, actually, when Path of Math was talking about doing bow builds and making his mirror tier bow stuff, he actually made a couple videos devoted straight to point blank versus Far Shot. Now I'm getting a little meta here, but I just want to pull this up actually, because it is highly relevant to what was going on through my mind in my experience in sort of making the decision to use this bow. Obviously, the bow is kind of a big decision when you run a character like this. So this is actually a very, very informative chart here that I didn't know existed until about a week ago. And what it is it's a POEDB, so it is up to date as far as I know. There have been changes that have taken place between Point Blank and Far Shot and the calculations involved in them. But what this chart shows you is what it looks like on the blue line to have neither one of those. Obviously, your damage is 100%, whatever it is. Now, on my Raider last season, I just ran Point Blank, and because I focused mostly on shot, it's just really like to run Tornado Shot in general. You kind of really want Point Blank because it is how you do single target DPS. You do so much, like even if you ran, I don't want to say you have to have point blank, but like even if you ran far shot with no point blank and you did less damage up front, you would still walk up to the boss and shotgun them, because you're getting so many extra arrows into them that it's actually, from a practical standpoint, it's actually more damage, more DPS, even with the nerf on it. So if you go point blank, then you're really double dipping into that single target damage power. Now, the problem with point blank on mapping is that while that works nicely, you know, for Legion bosses and the boss and then beyond bosses, and I don't know, just like, I guess, you know, when I open a strong box, you just fire away. Point blank is obviously doing a lot of lifting there, but the fact of the matter is, a great deal of my damage occurs very far away from me. I mean, you see what happens when I, you know, I'm firing these arrows. A lot of them are going way, way far out. I got a lot of projectile speed. You got forked arrows. You got one chain. You got ricochet off the terrain. So the damage is calculated from the original source of the arrow. So every single one of those maneuvers of the arrow is just adding distance, just getting farther and farther and farther. So you can see point blank goes down. And I believe, I would have to double check this, but I believe it flattens out at 70. I don't think it penalizes you anymore past 70. That's why, I think that's why they actually cut off the chart at 70. Could be wrong, but I'm 90% sure. Now, the interesting thing is if you actually incorporate far shot in here. So far shot is the green line, point blank is the red line. So what happens with far shot is extraordinarily good for mapping, but you know, in these sort of point blank scenarios, which are often, you know, your damage is actually less. But what happens when you combine both of them, because even though both of them have downsides, their upsides actually outweigh their downsides from a pure calculation standpoint. Therefore, the purple line is what you get when you get both of them. And this is essentially its own multiplier. They cancel each other out somewhat, but the final result is that you're actually doing a lot more damage. You're doing a lot more damage across the board. Obviously, my shotgunning damage has gone down a fair bit. Sort of, you know, right in the face, shotgun damage has gone down a little bit. But the second the arrows get any distance on them at all, I mean, that is a lot of extra damage, to 20% more damage. It looks like, to me, in my mind, I look at this chart and I estimate that I'm getting somewhere around an average of 20% more damage by going far shot, by having far shot on it. So that is pretty freaking huge. And since that's its own multiplier, you can kind of imagine that being just stats inherent to the bow. So I can basically imagine between hits cannot be evaded and far shot on here that this bow is essentially doing about 30 to 40% more damage than what it is advertised on there. And when you take these numbers on here and you multiply them by about 30 or 40% more, it starts to look like a decent bow. Those are some decent numbers, actually. So I'm happy with it, and I've been running with it, and it feels good. It feels pretty good. And obviously, one of the downsides, I can't get extra arrows. Of course, you know, an extra arrow bow with good physical damage, that's like 80x or something. But you know what is possible? It could be corrupted. So this could be corrupted, and I have a live search set up for a well-rolled Lion's Glare, and there are already 2 on trade that exist with an extra arrow, but they're poorly rolled. So yeah, the problem with it is they're not going to have quality probably, and they're poorly rolled. So yeah. Anyway, I don't really foresee myself corrupting these. I could potentially double corrupt them in the temples, a bunch of them, but it's so hard to hit that mod. So I'm probably just going to settle for this all the way up until the point when somebody crafts a mirror tier bow. Which should be easier than normal this season, because thanks to the recombinator. Should be actually really easy. And I'm not 100% sure, but the mirror tier bow might even be better than it was last season. I'm gonna look at it again. I don't think so. It might be because you can get extra veiled modifiers on it. Well, at any rate, I'm looking forward to a mirror tier bow, but I think it would be probably wise in my situation to just stick with this bow all the way until then, and work on other upgrades, because I think it's, honestly, I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Same ring is here. I did go ahead and equip this really, really nice double chaos res ring that is set up really nicely for Omniscience. As you can see, I got a couple pieces of gear here ready for the Omniscience transition. So that's not being wasted, but unfortunately it's not there. This was a huge deal, getting this career reward. I hadn't thought about this until well after my day one, but I think next season, assuming I do this league start again, which I think I might. In fact, I think I might actually make a formal guide on this if it continues to be really successful. I mean, we've already kind of gotten over the hill of figuring out whether this build is going to be successful or not, and it's pretty obvious that the answer is wildly successful, I think. There is one thing I need to push on people, though, something I wish I had said in that build showcase video I did last time, and that is I should have pushed the notion that it is not an easy build to execute. It's easy to get the gear together and everything, but as far as like your play style and stuff, you have to actually be very active on the field. It's not a sort of passive, you know, just walk into the map and do whatever you want. Now, you have to actually pay attention to a lot of things, and so it's a very dynamic playstyle. I personally love that kind of thing. That's what invigorates me to play the game, what makes me excited to play the game, but I think for a lot of people that's not necessarily what they're going for, so I don't want to mislead anyone. I'll definitely hit that home when I make another showcase on that video. So with the transition from Fizz to Element, that was with the Anomalous Tornado Shot. I've already corrupted a few of these, gotten a couple. I have another one for sale. That's the only one in existence. This is a 2120. I think these already been selling for 10x. So I got a 15. I'll probably sell this for at least like 10x. So that's cool. That's coming. I did go ahead and invest 13 exalts in this helmet that is never going to get replaced. I was waiting with a live search this whole time for this specific helmet to show up. Last season I had the same double corruption, except it was AoE gems instead of R gems. It doesn't matter because as long as it's one of those two. Then you put your 4-link, your Enlightened support 4-link aura setup in here, and you're good to go. That's basically the best aura setup you can get. That'll set me up nicely for an Animate Guardian transition, which will happen later. Not yet. I'm afraid to go Animate Guardian, guys. I don't know how he's going to survive in this field here. But, yeah, I'll hold off on that for a little while, I think. But I'm super happy I got this helmet out of the way. So I wasn't necessarily going to get this helmet before getting Omniscience, but I wasn't going to pass up on it because you don't see this helmet every day. You don't see this double corruption every day, and this is absolute endgame stuff right here. So really happy to get that out of the way. I had to pay a lab runner 8x for the enchant, and the helm cost me 5x, so it was 13x in total. There, the quiver, I was very lucky to get this for 2x somewhat recently, and honestly, it was a total steal. I mean, this is like a 10x quiver at least, I think, especially with the physical damage to attacks. Yeah, absolutely superb quiver. Obviously not synthesis, so eventually I'll get a mirror tier quiver, but this is going to last me all the way until mirror tier quiver, probably. Still got a series step. At some point I need to get transition over to Magic Find, but actually I don't really see how I can switch over to Magic Find unless I do some major changes to my gear, because I would... Yeah, I'm already sort of starved on spell suppression. I really wish I was a Raider Ascendancy, but I can't go Raider Ascendancy right now. It wouldn't work very well, so I kind of have to wait until I get... I think I have to wait at least until I get the Forbidding Jewels for Tailwind, Gale Winds, and probably also want to wait until I get a +3 arrow mirror bow as well to help make up for the loss of arrows. I think I need those two things probably before I switch over to Raider, and then it would be a good decision to do that. So, yeah. That's kind of what that looks like. I am doing Sentinel, so I am testing Sentinel a fair bit. I watched Grimrose video, a little bit of Firegrass video. I was interested to see what they had to say on Sentinel. I got a couple of pretty good ones here. The Obsidian base is the highest tier normal base. There are some special bases that exist. I got a nice locker, unfortunately kind of running low on Stalker Sentinels, but I got a couple of good ones here, and I actually got a pretty decent supply of Pandemonium Sentinels that are all pretty good. I mean, this is look at this thing, man. This is freaking monster. So this is like absolute S tier. Well, it's not S tier, I guess, because it's not a alternative base, but this is basically an S tier Sentinel. I don't know what this would actually be worth to the right buyer, but this is freaking crazy, getting the Sentinel reward and Expedition reward on there. But they aren't highest tiers. But anyway, this is kind of like the dream to get this sort of thing, and now pray that I get to keep some of these. It even has the plus charges on there, which is pretty wild. I did discover something really interesting to you guys. So here's an alternative base one. Fires an additional beam, so it basically doubles. I guess it double or increases the likelihood that it gets all 120 enemies. If you're running Legion nodes, where the monsters drop Legion's splinters and they have a chance to become emblems, and they have a chance to be doubled, this counts. This Sentinel counts for that. I got a raw Mariketh emblem drop off of a Sentinel monster with, like, prior to slamming this one together with a previous Sentinel that had a Legion reward. I bet a lot of people don't know that, but now you're in the know on that one. These are to be combined there. I do actually want to test the Apex Sentinel. I have a feeling it's not going to be that good, but I want to test it because one thing is, I think a lot of people aren't even testing it. A, because they think it's probably not going to be as good as the Stalker Sentinel, but B, people just don't want to supercharge a boss because it takes longer to kill. But with my build, I absolutely nuke bosses out of existence, so that's not a big issue. I can especially control the timing of which I go down there. If I go down there with 300 Soulthirst stacks, I don't care what that boss has. It could be empowered in 100 different ways. It's still just going to get one shot, basically. Because I'm doing like over 10 times the amount of damage that I normally do if I have 300 stacks. So that's Soulthirst for you. I'm going to showcase, obviously. I'll run one map to kind of show you guys what I've been doing. But right before we do that, I want to show you a pretty little dump tab here. Now, I actually did some of this run on stream, but I did complete it off stream, and this is not a formal currency making video. I suspect a lot of you are looking forward to currency farming videos. I will be coming out with those probably starting in about a week, maybe about a week. Hopefully I'll get the first one out within a week from now. No promises. I'm kind of reluctant to make a currency farming strategy until I have like my character in a really good spot. I kind of want to get Omniscience before I actually make a video about that. But anyway, just so you know, I farmed this was about between 11 and 12x an hour was my session. It was only 32 maps, and I think I did get fairly lucky. I actually got 3 brother stashes, so that was about 11 to 12x an hour with 3 brother stashes. I'm moving quite a bit more slow than I was last season. It's taken me at least twice as long to complete the maps. Because for a couple of variety of reasons. So Headhunter and inspired learning buffs, we're not going to get anywhere near as much movement speed as we used to get. That is probably the most significant nerf to Headhunter, is that we just lost tons of movement speed. So before with Headhunter, if you had like 40 or 50 buffs and you checked your character tab, you can see right here that I'm running at, I only have 80% movement speed modifier. Now, when I use my flask, it's 154, and my flask does last a very long time. But when you get a bunch of Headhunter buffs, that number goes up to like over 1,000. Just 1,000 flat movement speed increase. So it's absolutely crazy. And that is why you saw people fly through the map. Now, the only way to really get to a point where you're just flying through the map is if you get lucky and get a major acceleration speed shrine with the Gull. And that is, honestly, in my opinion, and I've seen at least one other content creator comment on this, that does appear to be the end game juicing strategy, at least for solo players. Fast juicing strategies is with shrines and probably going domination, not even delirium. I was already saying in the very beginning, people were like all excited, delirium's on there, like, oh, you're gonna run delirium, right? I'm like, no, probably not. I think domination is definitely going to be more valuable than delirium. 4 shrines gives you 8 random shrine effects, and you also get an extra one, so that's a total of 10. And then if you run a gloom shrine, that would be 11, because the gloom shrine is 1. And then if you run an elevated gloom shrine, that's 13. So you can get as many as 13 random shrine effects per map. I do actually have elevated gloom shrine in here because they're dirt cheap. They're basically the same price point as regular gloom shrines for some crazy reason. And this is kind of what my setup looks like for mapping right now. It is the 2 strong boxes. Ambush Scarabs are kind of going to the moon suddenly. It's pretty obvious that everyone's using strongboxes because, well, unfortunately, with the changes to Arch Nemesis, apparently the one mechanic that suffered the least, shall we say, from the Arch Nemesis buffs is Strongbox. So Strongbox and Harbinger, to a lesser extent, feel extremely safe this season. And a lot of people are blocking, you know, everything. A lot of people are going strategies where they block, like, literally block everything, and then they just go Strongbox and Harbinger. I mean, that was sort of like what I was doing before. But I do like juicing still, obviously. I like the divination card farming. I do think that is superior. I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of currency earning videos, like actual numbers, what people are posting. I'm curious. I've heard rumors, some people making more than 10x an hour. Maybe like simulacrum farming or whatever, counting like gem leveling or something. That's not something I'm very interested in. I'm curious how well that would do with Soulthirst, though. I mean, in theory, should be damn good with the Soulthirst. Simulacrum might actually be incredibly easy for a Soulthirst build. So I will at least test it. I do plan to dip my toe into a Simulacrum just to see. But Legions are extremely valuable. People are steering away from them. The Arch Nemesis mods aren't so bad on them. They're sort of middle of the road. They can get kind of wild and crazy, but for the most part they're okay. But Legion has always been one of the hardest League mechanics because it's very much a timed thing, and for the most part only elite level mappers can really do Legion and do it highly efficiently. Even I screw up sometimes. Like, I don't really get all the Legion, or I miss the bosses or whatever. Yeah, so it's extremely profitable, and it's very good for selling in bulk sets on TFT. You can get at least like 30% more sale value by bulk selling full sets on TFT, which is something I do. Let's see, I did go ahead and go singular focus. You notice I don't have a single map sort of map modifier or one that increases my map sustain. Don't need it. Don't need it now. I can run the 8 mod corrupted maps for like half the time, and the other half the time I don't need it. Because I'm running maps the same way I ran last time. It's not like they nerfed the map sustain. A lot of people just constantly forget. They always, you know, start a new season like, man, map sustain's really hard this league. No, you're just juicing way less than you did at the end of the last league. That's all it is. So if I can sort of immediately get to like a juicing point where I was doing basically what I was doing last season, well, my map sustain's like the same as it was last season. Way over sustained. Now the really cool thing about this is actually an excellent. This is a real sleeper. Shall we say sleeper? Keystone. God, I always forget the name of that word. Keystone. Yeah, sleeper keystone, because I didn't expect this thing to be incredibly valuable, but I also didn't expect cemetery to be like the most valuable map too. So I can really hone in on finding cemetery maps. I can sell the excess ones I have. I haven't really started selling them yet because I don't have like massive excess. But I am probably starting with this new batch that I got in the dump tab currently. I think I will start selling cemetery maps. They're worth at least 5 chaos a piece right now. Crimson Temple is also high. So what did I do? Well, I favorited all cemetery and then a couple of Crimson Temple maps. Now, I am keeping my own Crimson Temple maps, 8 mod corrupted ones, so to try to build up a tiny little stockpile. I have not unlocked the Feared. I have not done any of the major Maven invitations. I should probably do 2. I should probably get 2 of them to get these last 2 quantity wheels out of the way, but there's nothing else major to do. I am eventually going to test Grand Design. I know that's a thing that's pretty cool, but the problem with Grand Design is that I don't think you can really make up for the pack size that you lose by not getting the full top line here of massive map modifier effects or whatever. So your maps would be easier. And if you were running maps or you weren't 8 mod corrupting them, maybe it would be alright. But since I'm 8 mod corrupting maps with the 2% increase modifier, I'd have to do the math on it. But I'm pretty sure I'm getting something like, I don't know, at least 10%. Just these small notables here, I think it's giving me at least 10% more pack size. So, I'd have to do the math, so I'm not exactly sure. But and it would suck to lose some of the. I think the worst ones to lose would be these Domination Shrine Duration. I really don't want to lose those, but everything else, you know, I could probably stomach losing. Wouldn't be that bad. Actually, for Strongbox, it's not that big of a deal. Just the big notables are important. And Legion, the big notables are really important. Although, yeah, I would lose some chance for full emblems there a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of the picture there. Oh, one more thing. I am doing Dance of Destruction. You know, at some point when I feel like it's time to level up, I will probably swap over to... in all honesty, I'll probably just drop this. I won't even get Wellspring of Creation. I'll just drop this, and it should be enough. I feel pretty dang tanky in here. And one big reason I feel tanky, I've actually forgot to show. So I'm doing something that, like, absolutely nobody else does. I'm really bucking the meta here. So the meta for Tornado Shot is Ricochet or possibly Far Shot, but hey, I don't have to do it when I got it on my bow. Ricochet is better than Far Shot, by the way. Ricochet, and then Endless Munitions, Gathering Winds, and then Focal Point. So Focal Point is the big one. Focal Point is pretty good. It's obviously extremely good for bossing. But in maps, you're not really getting much effect of that damage reduction. I know people talk a big game about how much damage reduction is. It says 25% less damage taken from other enemies near your marked enemy. Well, hello, I got enemies from like multiple screens at the 360-degree radius that are firing at me at once. That's a lot of monsters that are not affected by this, regardless of whatever monster is the marked enemy. And I can't even control which enemy is marked anyway. Yeah, it's not all that good. The 75% increased effective marks is actually getting more value out of that. So what that does is that it increases the amount of through Sniper's Mark, that increases the amount of arrows that fire off in all directions. But not a huge deal, and it makes the marked target take some extra damage. I still have the mastery down here mainly because I need the frenzy charge on hit. But Windward. Okay, now I think people think this is a garbage ascendancy node, and they'd be kind of right under normal circumstances because, you know, do you want to lose Gathering Wind? So Gathering Winds takes your Tailwind from 8% more action speed to 20% more action speed when it has its full force, or maybe it's 10 to 10. I forget. I think it's 8% default and then 12% with 10 stacks. Now you want to have that up at all times, right? You don't want to be losing that when you get hit. Well, I mean, yeah, there's some truth to that. Also, the presumption, I think, is that if you get hit, how can you guarantee that you're going to get 10 more stacks back before you get hit again? Well, you can't guarantee that, obviously, under normal circumstances. But here's the thing. My character is not normal because I'm using Soulthirst, which means I am... It says here, gain 1 Gale Force when you use a skill. There is no internal cooldown on that. So when I have really any amount of Soulthirst stacks and I'm, you know, blitzing with my arrow, I could get hit 10 times a second. I would, well, maybe not 10 times. I could get hit 3 times a second or 4 times a second, and I would still have full stacks of Galewind every time I got hit. That's how many stacks I'm getting in a second. That's how fast I'm shooting. So this ascendancy node has actually put me in a really unique position where I can actually stand my ground and fire and just sort of take whatever heat is coming at me to a certain extent. Now, I don't like doing that as a rule of thumb, but I definitely don't want to be like just running through the map and not actually using ability. I definitely want to do like the stutter step, or kind of stand my ground. I'm beginning to get more comfortable with standing my ground, because if I stand my ground and fire a million arrows a second, I'm always going to be taking 30% less damage, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm also always going to be killing things, which is going to get me endurance charges, keep those up full time, and about half the time I'm going to have Immortal Call running as well. So, and then I also have Defiance Banner, Grace, Determination. So, to call this a glass cannon character would be a real slap in the face. This is far from a glass cannon character at this point. This is 3,300 health. That's not very much, and health does matter now more than before, because one of the other major nerfs to Headhunter is that we're no longer seeing, you know, our energy shield and life pool climb up to the moon with Headhunter buffs. There are a couple, you know, like Gargantuan, I think gives a bunch of health or whatever, but you know, you're not going to get tons of movement speed, you're not going to get tons of health, you're not going to get tons of attack speed, but you do still get tons of one thing really important with the Headhunter or Inspired Learning buff stolen, and that is Fizz to extra damage converted. There are something like, I think the answer is 13. I think there's 13 different Arch Nemesis buffs that each give 50% increase Fizz to element damage. 13 of them. So when you kill an Arch Nemesis monster, even with Inspired Learning, there's a decent chance that you're going to pull one of those out, and that is an enormous damage increase. You know, that give just one of those modifiers probably increases my damage. In reality, probably increases my damage by about 30%. Like 30% more damage for each one of those that I take. So, yeah, pretty happy with that. Let's see this build in action. Let's do a run. So I got a really fun map here. I got triple monsters deal extra Fizz's damage. Speaking of extra Fizz's elemental damage, here's 3 of them on a map. 100% increased area of effect. Boss deals extra damage. Like the other modifiers don't matter. I'll tell you what modifier doesn't matter literally at all, and that's players gain 50% reduced flash charges. That does not affect me at all. So let's see this build in action. I know you guys have already seen this a little bit. You saw, but you know, go back to my other videos, see my day 1 map, and then compare it to my week 1 map. Just see a big freaking difference. Yeah. So we're gonna do domination. I'm not gonna go any Atlas thing. I no longer have the Nico Sulfite things, you know, which is cool. I don't really need them anymore. I am using the Sentinels. Got a couple good Sentinels, so let's give this a try here.
I'm not up to that just yet.
Oh, I got Delirium, so this will be extra exciting. Maybe I'll just die right away. Kind of like bugged out a little bit. So you see, I already have how many stacks? 200 plus. 200 plus. You know, let me go make quick work of this boss. I'm not even shotgunning him properly. So this is with Delirium. Go ahead and unlock this Legion here. Oh, Ice Prison got the better of me a little there. That's quite alright. Sentinels, I am picking up only premium Sentinels. Unique Arcanist. Good. So I believe I have an Echoing Shrine because every time I try to dash, it dashes me back in space, back into place rather. That's okay because Echoing Shrine is freaking strong as hell for this build. So I don't mind having an Echoing Shrine. Really, I don't mind. So this is Delirium, and it's obviously much, much harder than an average map. So, you know, I don't even have Omniscience on. I don't have the Headhunter on. How many Headhunter buffs do I have? I have 9 or 10 in total with Inspired Learning. So, yeah, not that great. Here, let's try to find a good spot for the... Here, how about that Sentinel spot? Is that good? Yeah, that's good. Good enough to get my ass killed. Yeah, so... kind of went a little bit. I tried to go a little on the deep end there with that Sentinel because, you know, showcasing a Delirium map. So Delirium's over. It's going to be obviously a lot easier now, but I do have a bajillion monsters powered by Sentinel there. Now, right now, I'm kind of weak, actually, because I don't have hardly any stacks, but the second I really build up any stacks, it's going to... What is it doing here? So here's the really hard monsters. And yeah, did get myself killed. I took an extra chance there trying to grab that, the best shrine in the game right there, which was a major acceleration speed shrine. But I missed. Monsters run very fast, you know, it's kind of dangerous. I don't really want to focus on killing monsters very much until I get some stacks. So again, Dying is unfortunate because I have to work on getting my stacks back up, but Strongbox is extremely good because I can very easily get my stacks up because they do have a short range. The range is very short on the Soulthirst accumulating the stacks, so that is a little problematic. But with Strongbox, it is extremely good for me. Strongboxes, you know, I wish they weren't that good for everyone, so they wouldn't be so expensive for me, but they're just tremendously good in multiple ways. They are one of the better mechanics to do, one of the safer mechanics to do, Arch Nemesis wise. Divine Orbs are worth more than they will be last season because of no Beyond on the Atlas. Scarabs are worth more than before because Scarabs are not seen nearly as much in altars. And then Strongbox is especially strong for me because of how Soulthirst works and its range of monsters. So it puts an enormous pack size of monsters right in my face. So all of those monsters that die, I actually do get like the full effect of Soulthirst there, because a lot of monsters I kill are like off screen or, you know, somewhere pretty far away, and I'm not getting any Soulthirst stacks from a monster that I kill off screen or even on screen. If it's like 70 units away, I still don't get it. Yeah, so that's kind of a map there. I mean, that's cool. I mean, I'll go ahead and showcase myself getting wrecked a little bit, but you know, you saw I made some calculated errors there and trying to do Delirium and be kind of gung-ho about that Delirium there. I paid the price for it, not a big deal. I'm not at a point where I'm really trying to focus on leveling right now anyway. I got 6 portals to spare, so it's whatever. Definitely got a great Sentinel charge off. No major rewards from this map, but, well, that's the average map. You know, the average map, you're not going to find a brother's stash. So, yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. That's what it looks like. This map probably a little slower than the others, but it usually takes me about 5 minutes, a little more than 5 minutes to get in and out of the maps right now. I'm going to try to increase that speed, although I feel like the only way for me to get really more efficient is, 1, get Omniscience, and 2, just I gotta get like more movement speed. I'm honestly thinking I'm gonna prioritize movement speed on the Watcher's Eye and stuff like that in the future more than anything. Yeah, so we'll see here. Let's see if I got any good Sentinels. No. Actually, I'm not sure why I see Cobalt Stalker. I thought that was all from my loot filter. I'll have to double check that. Okay. Well, that's it. That's a run right there. You got to see it in action. Sure, if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. That's my week 1 experience. Been basically nothing but positivity from my end personally. But I have witnessed a lot of negativity from a wide array of people, even prominent streamers, which is really surprising me, to be completely honest. People who play this game in a fairly hardcore way, even if they're not playing hardcore mode. Yeah, so I'd like to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions about the build, that's great. Just know that I've been having a great time and have had a good experience in week 1 very well. I did have to work, so I mean that's why I'm not swimming in cash currently, because I do have to work. I can't be playing the game a ton. I'm not up to that but aside from that, I definitely going better than the season before last and then the one before that, so things keep getting better every time. And the biggest thing I'm happy about is the fact that this is the first time I've sort of, well, I guess I'm not really exaggerating when I say I basically invented a build, because there is no Tornado Shot Soulthirst build in existence as far as I'm aware. Soulthirst obviously is something that is well known, but only 0.1% of players are using it on the ladder. So obviously it is not meta by any stretch of the imagination. So if I'm literally the only person on the ladder who's doing this build, then I'm definitely going against the meta. But Tornado Shot obviously is a very popular skill once you're able to start scaling it, but it's not a popular skill in the first week of the season either. So anyway, I'm not someone who sort of tries hard to do non-meta stuff. I actually don't care. I don't mind doing meta stuff. I don't mind it at all. But it is pretty cool to actually be doing something, you know, trying something new and something that's not on the meta, and able to share that with you guys. So there will be more videos coming out about this build as I progress into a more medium or higher end budget. And there will be some farming videos coming out, obviously, in the fairly near future. I will start streaming a little more often. I know I didn't really stream. I only streamed once in this first week, so I'll start doing that more often too. Anyway, I'll catch you guys later. This video is already long enough. Toodaloo. Bye for now.